Hello, and welcome back to Mirrors. Last time, with Vision having at long last concluded their European tour, David and Susanna decided it would be a good time to go on a nice, pleasant vacation through the English countryside. And they went and visited Stonehenge, and that was cool, and then they were attacked by assassins sent by the northern tribes, but they survived that, so surely nothing else will go wrong. Before we begin, a couple things. First, this is definitely going to be one of the longer videos in this series. Maybe the longest? It depends. Not sure about that yet, but certainly a contender, so, you might want to get a snack or something. Second of all, this episode is... the stuff contained herein will be surprisingly graphic and violent. I'll try and signpost it, when it's closer to actually happening, but you've been warned. Having said that, let us begin. David and Susanna woke up early in the morning and set off. Their car drove past the hills of Manchester, towards Haworth.
David, those men who attacked us were from the northern tribes. Their bloodline survived throughout history to this very day.
So I might actually die if I don't become the Devil King, like King Hroth said. I don't know what to expect anymore.
I'm going to keep you safe. I'll get in contact with friends of my mother's. They're sorcerers. They'll help us find the King of the North. Everything's going to be fine once he's dead.
Murder is wrong. I'd rather talk to the police about this. Again, fat lot of good that's going to do you.
They're not going to believe you. If you mention anything about the Devil King or the King of the North, they're just going to send you to a psychiatric ward. It would be the end of Vision. Besides, the northern tribes aren't an army. We can take care of it ourselves.
Those two men who saved us, there's something off about them. The timing was a little too perfect, and I feel like I've seen them before.
Yes, I have a feeling they've been following us for a while. But forget about them. You were so cool when you dodged that knife.
God, even now she's buttering him up. I surprised myself. That was never good in the brawl, not even as a kid. Maybe it's the power of the Devil King.
It could be. If you have his power, you should be fine, even if the northern tribes attack you again.
David and Susanna finally reached Haworth late in the afternoon. There was no real town there. It was mostly a rural village, with wild pastures used by farmers to raise their sheep. Rural is such an awkward word to say. No matter how many times you say it, it never gets not awkward for me. Anyway, David's car followed a road that went through the wilderness, up and down the hills. Eventually, they reached a small old fortress. The car passed through a stone gate and then stopped. Susanna took out a key, unlocked the gate, and stepped inside with David.
Mr. Lands is supposed to be here. Maybe he's out shopping.
When you said you lived in the countryside, I was expecting a farmhouse, not a castle. Everything looks clean. Does anyone live in it?
Mr. Lands and his wife look after it. They did some extra cleaning just for us. Let's go up to the roof, David. The view there is fantastic.
Susanna led David up the stairs to the rooftop.
Look, prairie as far as the eye can see. Not even a single tree. The northern tribes will never catch us by surprise.
It's like a castle in the middle of nowhere. Come to think of it, Susanna, I think I've seen it before.
Have you been to Haworth in the past?
I remember now. It was one of my visions. King Hroth and Lafir were at the top of a castle. It wasn't just wilderness back then, though. There was a lot of green, fields, and houses. It was very similar to this view.
If this was actually the castle of King Hroth, then the so-called King of the North would be north from here. It could be Edinburgh, or even farther north.
Maybe King Hroth used his forbidden arts to flood the wilderness and turn them into lush fields. When you think about it, with modern technology, you can bring water to a desert and make it arable.
If you were to become the Devil King, you could use the forbidden arts to cover the world with green.
Not even King Hroth had that kind of power. Now that we're safe, I suddenly feel tired. Is there a room where I can lie down?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We've been driving all morning. I should have noticed you'd be tired. My room should be ready for use.
Susanna guided David to her room. It was clean and decorated with flowers. David laid on the bed without even undressing. Meanwhile, Susanna went downstairs to get their luggage. He did not notice falling asleep, but he was awakened by voices coming from outside the window. Warily, he got up, approaching the window. Loud sound warning. Seriously. He couldn't believe his eyes. There was a mob of peasants carrying swords, spears, and other weapons. Some were shooting arrows, but the shooters were too far away for them to reach him. A man, fully dressed for battle, shouted at David. "We told you to never come back to the castle! Why have you returned? The King of the North will be upon us soon. If you won't leave before he's here, he'll kill us all! The King of the North used his power to subjugate the land. Your magic won't work. Look! It's all a barren wasteland now. We chose to live here nonetheless, because we didn't want to fight. Leave! Hurry!" The peasants surrounding the castle were all shouting at him. David was unable to reply. Then he heard a voice coming from behind him. David turned around. There was a large man wielding a sword. "So you are the one who has inherited the blood of the Devil King. I am the King of the North." "The King of the North? How did you come here?" "With my magical prowess, I am able to go anywhere I want. I wish to test your skills, but it seems death will soon be upon you."
I keep hearing that we're supposed to fight, but I don't care about this nonsense. Can't we just lay these old grudges to rest?
"If the Devil King is revived from your blood, my own bloodline will be severed, and I shall be erased from existence. If you truly wish to end this ancient grudge, you must cut off your bloodline."
I can't use magic like you do, but the power of the Devil King always emerges to save me. There's no point in fighting.
"If the Devil King is reborn, I will stand no chance. I must kill you now, before it is too late."
The King of the North pointed his sword at David and chanted a spell.
Ah! David collapsed on the floor, writhing in pain while holding his head. "Be gone, Devil King. You must have thought that I would fight with my sword, but you should have known I could cast spells. We love casting spells. By my power, the blood of the man called David shall boil. Let the blood of the Devil King be purged from this world." It is almost over. Rest in... What? Curses! It must be that witch Susanna. David felt something cold touching his face, but his entire body was burning, and his head felt like it was splitting apart.
David, hang in there!
Susanna was wiping David's head with a towel. Hearing the scream, she was joined by a man and a woman shortly after.
Mr. Lands, I think he has a fever. He needs medicine.
The man hurried downstairs.
There was nothing wrong with him, but all of a sudden he has a fever. Could it be a spell? Miss Emily, please bring me some shamaness.
Shamaness, the sorceress water? Does that mean that Mr. David is... Yes, I'll fetch it right away. Emily went downstairs just as Mr. Lands made his return. I'm glad I bought this medicine kit, thinking he might stay here for a while. Here, this should bring his fever down. Susanna tried giving David his medicine, but he was gritting his teeth from the pain and wouldn't take it. Emily returned, gasping for breath. She brought a small bottle filled with liquid. Susanna, are these symptoms...
This is the shamaness water your mother made. It's a little old, but it was kept safely in the basement's medicine cabinet.
Susanna poured water from the bottle onto a towel. Then she began to wipe David's body. David's pain seemed to ease up. He opened his mouth, gasping for air.
I think he's safe now. David must have been hit by a northern spell. I agree. Shamaness water is only so effective against northern sorcery. We need to find out the identity of the King of the North before they try to kill him again.
The dark sorcerers are gathering tonight, but they found no information about the King of the North. I'm afraid we won't be able to find him for the time being.
There's still hope. The client of those detectives who've been following me should be of the northern tribes. If we can catch them and interrogate them, we may be able to find some clues.
David called out Susanna's name as he gasped for air. Susanna hurried to his side as he was regaining consciousness. Susanna, I'm... alive.
David, you're awake! Oh, I'm so glad.
I had another nightmare. The King of the North was there. I thought I'd die for real this time.
The King? David, you saw the King of the North?
Yeah. And I hope I never see him again. I'll never forget his face. He tried to kill me with a spell.
The King of the North himself can use magic? We never knew about that. So the King of the North of this era is a sorcerer.
If he truly is a sorcerer, he'd never show himself openly. Still, he should have other mages under his command. We must find one of them.
They probably call themselves the Mages of the North. We should focus our searches on the most famous mages of England.
Susanna, who are these people?
Oh, I haven't introduced them yet. These are Mr. and Mrs. Lands. They were out for groceries when we arrived.
My name is David. I'm sorry to have caused you this much trouble. After exchanging greetings, David felt tired once again and closed his eyes, quickly falling asleep. Susanna lit a candle. The sun went down and it was dark outside. Mr. and Mrs. Lands left the room, but Susanna stayed with David. It was a dark night, and there was no illumination in the wilderness. The few stars in the sky cast the shadow of the castle on the ground, where Clark and Vince were lurking.
Are you really going inside the castle, Chief? This is trespassing, you know.
It's only trespassing if you're caught. 3 cars went inside the castle. Don't you want to know what's going on?
Well, yeah, I guess. One thing's for sure, it's not Eleno vision. I saw a middle-aged couple. Definitely not part of David's music circle.
There's no electricity, so it's only oil lamps and candles in there. At the very least, they won't be able to see my face clearly.
The client told us not to go inside, though. There's definitely something bad going on. And you heard what their colleagues said about them.
Think about it. The client is a fortune teller, and they're willing to spend a ton of money on this investigation. That means there's a mastermind behind this. We've come this far. I'm going in there. You stay here and wait for me.
Wait here? Alone in the dark? No way. I'd rather come with you. But let's not go in too deep.
The castle gates were not locked, so Clark and Vince could enter without issue. Candles were lit over the corridor walls, so they did not need to turn on their flashlights.
There's no candles on the other corridors. Maybe this is where they went through.
There's only one common room. No point in lighting candles if you're not going that way. Clark and Vince turned right, then left. Eventually, they reached a closed door. I don't think there's anyone inside. Let's open it. Be ready to run in case there's someone in there. Clark pushed the door gently. It was not locked, but it made a loud creaking noise. I think it leads to the basement. The candles are lit, so someone's been down there. Let's go. Clark and Vince followed the stairs down. The basement was large, filled with objects. At the end of the path, they could see a door, illuminated by candles. Clark stopped in front of the door. He took a deep breath. Then he opened it, cautiously. Beyond the door was a dark room, with but a single lit candle. Clark made his way inside. Right then, Clark and Vince were hit on the head with a stick. They fell to the floor. Meanwhile, David had been nursed back by Susanna. As they sat by a lit candle, they talked about the King of the North.
I'm really glad you're feeling better now. I had no idea the King of the North could use magic.
Can a spell truly kill a man? I definitely was in pain, but I thought it was just another one of my nightmares.
Some spells are similar to hypnosis, but they can be cast on someone from a distance. They require great concentration, so the King of the North must be spent right now.
I was having already too many nightmares due to the blood of King Hroth. I'm not sure I can take it if the King of the North is going to give me nightmares as well.
If it's impossible to run away from it, maybe you should become the Devil King after all.
That would mean killing people from the northern tribes. That would make me a murderer. I'd have to spend the rest of my life on the run from the police.
Calm down, David. Being agitated isn't good for your health.
Right then, Emily came into the room. She approached Susanna and whispered into her ear.
The sorcerers, friends of my mother, have gathered. David, come with us. You can talk to them. You may be able to learn something about the power of magic.
I'll come since you asked, but I'm not sure I'd like to become a sorcerer.
I'm only an apprentice, but if you became the Devil King, you'd be the leader of all dark sorcerers. Don't let the name fool you, they're all good people.
Susanna held David's hand and led him downstairs. They walked through a dark corridor lit only by candles and reached the basement. As soon as they walked through the door, 4 men and 1 woman bowed to David. They were not greeting him as the lead vocalist of Vision, but as the Devil King. Oh boy, more characters to meet a voice. Susanna approached the table placed in the middle of the room. I'm fairly sure... Jesus Christ, let me try that again. Susanna approached the table placed in the middle of the room, and the sorcerers gathered around it.
David, this is Thomas Simon. This is his wife, Lisa.
Wow, what is going on with her portrait? Friggin' PS1 NPC looking ass.
These are Burroughs and Revis. And this is Greg. Each one of them has earned the title of Dark Sorcerer.
My name is David. I'm sorry you had to come all the way here just for me. Strange. Not sure what that's about.
The Dark Sorcerers live to assist the Devil King. Don't worry about it, David. Now, let the meeting begin. David, do you recognize the man in this picture? Have you seen him in one of your dreams?
David looked at the photo. He had never seen him before.
This is the man who hired those detectives to follow you and your colleagues during your tour of Europe.
Mr. Lands told us about how the King of the North cast a terrible spell upon you. How did that happen? Where did he come from?
Well, in my nightmare, the castle was surrounded by armed peasants, yelling at me to leave. And then the King of the North appeared in my room.
He must have sent you that nightmare himself in order to appear before you and cast his spell. So the nightmare warding ring was ineffective against the King of the North.
What if next time he sends another nightmare, we also... Let me try that again. What if next time he sends another nightmare, we also enter the dream world and fight him?
There's no guarantee we can defeat him with our magic. If we were to lose, David's life would be forfeit.
The King of the North sent a nightmare, entered it, and then cast a spell from within. None of us are capable of a similar feat. That is, unless David were to become the Devil King.
Our only choice is to find the King of the North and kill him with our weapons. First, we must interrogate those detectives we captured and find out where their client is.
They've been captured? Have they said the name of their client?
They wouldn't say, not even with a truth serum. They could be descendants of the northern tribes. Our only choice is to borrow the power of the Devil King and cast a spell to find out.
Listen, I only have so many voices to work with. I'm not a professional by any means. I'm doing my best. I'm no sorcerer. I can't cast any spells. I've only ever had nightmares and visions. Susanna, help me out here.
It'll be fine. Greg, bring them here.
Greg approached a wardrobe in the corner of the room and opened its door. He pulled out Clark and Vince, whose hands were tied behind their backs, and brought them over.
I had a feeling it would be you lot. Why won't you tell us the name of your client? This is a matter of life and death for us.
Is this how you repay us for saving your asses? A detective never reveals the name of his client. I'm a professional.
I'm willing to kill you to find out. We could easily find out using the powers of the Devil King, but that would leave you crippled for life.
The Devil King, huh? We've been hearing that name a lot, but we still don't know who that is. How about you introduce us? I'm telling you, we know nothing about this King of the North or the Devil King business.
Chief, I think she's serious. I don't want the Devil King to curse me. I don't know anything about them, but you know the client. Just tell them.
Shut the hell up. I'll never betray a client. It's a matter of pride. Go ahead and kill me if you want. And don't bother with truth serums. I'm trained to resist them.
David, we need your help. Please, drink this. It's a sleeping medicine. Once your blood has been quelled, I'll use a spell to draw out the power of the Devil King and get everything we need to know from them.
You mean you can use magic? Susanna, did you get close to me because of the blood that flows in my veins?
No, I got close to you because I love you. I've had dreams about you ever since I was born. I've loved you all my life. The only reason I've been hiding the truth was to protect you from the King of the North. Besides, what if I told you about the Devil King during our first meeting? You would have thought I was crazy and stayed away from me. Please, you have to trust me. Drink this.
In truth, David was not particularly surprised by the revelation. It was true that if not for Susanna, he would have been killed by the King of the North, or possibly sent to a psychiatric ward. However, he knew that using the spell to force the truth out of the detectives would cripple them, or even kill them outright.
They're part of the northern tribes. King Hroth said that the sight of their blood would awaken the Devil King. You wouldn't have to fear the King of the North any longer.
David believed Susanna's words, but the idea of killing the detectives made him hesitate. So, on the particular path we're on, this is a branching point. The first choice leads to some endings, and this choice leads to some other endings. Today, we will play into David's idiocy a little bit, and take the pills. Clark and Vince gasped as David took the pills.
Chief, they're actually doing the sorcery stuff. What's going to happen to us?
It's just hypnosis. When they chant their spells, think of something else and you'll be fine. Hypnosis is especially effective when you're scared. At any rate, you don't actually know anything. You'll be fine.
Under the effects of the pills, David's consciousness faded. Then, Susanna turned to Clark and Vince.
We're ready to summon the power of the Devil King. You will die the moment I chant the spell. Are you going to tell us about your client or not?
You think I'm gonna fall for this bullshit? Go ahead and do your magic trick. See if I care.
Susanna turned towards David and started chanting the spell. Vince covered his ears. Then, David opened his eyes, staring at Clark and Vince. Susanna was still chanting.
Ah! My body! It burns! My hands! My legs! I can't move!
What the hell? This isn't hypnosis! Vince, run! Ah! It burns!
Clark, what is the client's name? You will tell us his address. The Devil King orders you.
I'll never tell! What kind of detective would I be if I told you John Jeffs' name?
What does Jeffs do? Where is he?
I'm burning! Help! I don't know that Jeffs is a fortune teller. I can't tell you that he works in the back of the Gucci store on Bond Street.
I don't know anything! Help! Blood! Blood on my hands! My face! It won't stop pouring out! I'll tell you everything I know, just make it stop! My blood's gushing out! Help! I'll tell you about the client, please!
Clothes of Clark and Vince were soaked red. Blood was overflowing from their shoes, spilling onto the floor. As the blood flowed from the top of their heads, they looked like red ogres of folklore. They turned to look at one another and collapsed, writhing in agony. Clark and Vince were literally drowning in a pool of their own blood. Eventually, not even a drop of blood was left in their veins. In death, they had found the relief they longed for. Excluding Susanna and the unconscious David, the other sorcerers in the room had retreated into a corner, terrified.
They're dead. What frightens you so? You can't call yourself dark sorcerers and be afraid of a little blood.
Susanna scolded Mr. and Mrs. Lands. Then she turned to David and chanted a spell to wake him up.
David, look at the floor. Your power has drained the blood out of them. If they are with the northern tribes, the sight of their blood will awaken the power of the Devil King.
David nodded and turned towards the floor.
They're dead! Who could do such a terrible thing?
When he realized that everyone was staring at him, he began to scream in a panic.
You mean to say that I did it? There's no way. I'd never kill someone. I'd never do something so terrible. This is but a small portion of the power that lies dormant in your blood. If you tapped into the full power of the Devil King, you could change the world. I don't want it! I never wanted this horrible power! It's too late, David. Now that you've seen the blood of the northern tribes, the power of the Devil King will manifest itself. Then you'll be able to kill the King of the North. I'd rather he killed me than become a murderer. Please don't make me kill other people! Susanna, you knew this would happen. That's why you gave me those pills. You said you loved me, but all you really wanted was the power of the Devil King, didn't you? I'm a murderer. You tricked me into becoming one. What am I going to do now? What am I... Ah!
David screamed, clutching his head, before dropping to the floor, motionless. The sight of the two corpses in a pool of blood was too much for him. He had a mental breakdown and fainted.
He's not used to these sights like we are. It must have been too much for him. Please, bring him to my room. He hasn't recovered from the King of the North's spell. He'll feel better after a good night's sleep. By then, the power of the Devil King will have manifested itself.
What do we do about their client, this Jeffs?
He must know about the King of the North. He probably knows about me, as well as about Mr. and Mrs. Lands. We'll stay here, while the rest of you go capture him.
He might run away once he realizes he can't get in contact with the detectives. We must go now. Take care of David while we're gone. Will do. I'll keep watch from the roof with a rifle. I won't let anyone approach before you're back. Greg and the others left in a car. Helped by Lands, Susanna brought David back to her room. They laid him on the bed, and he immediately fell asleep. David was sleeping like a corpse. Mr. and Mrs. Lands went home to prepare for their guard duty. Susanna also left the room. She was gathering the tools she needed to cast a spell that would protect David from the King of the North. After a while, David came to his senses. He was alone in the room. He looked around. The room was illuminated by candles.
This is Susanna's room. So I was sleeping. But what about those corpses? Was it another nightmare? Susanna's a dark sorceress. She killed them to revive the blood of the Devil King in my veins. Those two detectives and their clients are northern tribesmen. Nightmare or not, something's about to happen. I must talk to Susanna. If she really is a dark sorceress, then...
David felt uneasy about seeing Susanna. The nightmare caused him to feel different about her. He lit a lamp and walked out of the room. He had not learned the layout of the castle yet. He went downstairs, entering the dining room. The candles in the dining room were lit, but Susanna was not there. He returned to the corridor. For some reason, he recalled his nightmare.
In my dream, at the end of the corridor, there is another path to the right.
As if to confirm whether it was merely a dream, David walked down the corridor. Then he saw a light coming from his right. The moment he turned right, he felt as if he was back in his nightmare. Candles were lit along the walls. At the end of the corridor was a door. The same door he saw in his nightmare.
In my nightmare, beyond that door there were stairs that led to the basement. Am I still dreaming?
David ran down the corridor and stopped in front of the door. Then he opened it. As he feared, there were stairs that led to a basement, lit by candles. David walked down the stairs. When he reached the door, he stopped to think.
If this is like my nightmare, beyond this door would be 2 men lying in a pool of blood. Susanna and the sorcerers.
David was afraid to open the door. He would rather go back, but something compelled him to see the truth with his own eyes. This is yet another branching option, a branching path, but this is the final one in this particular route that we're on. We'll circle back to this one in another video that's humorously too long for the text thing to highlight. But for now, for tonight, we'll open the door, get on the floor, and walk the dinosaur. He opened the door. It was just like his nightmare. The floor was covered in blood, which was wetting David's feet. At the center of the grisly pool were the corpses of 2 men. Unlike his nightmare, neither Susanna nor the sorcerers were present. Instead, there was a young man standing beside the corpses. David, these 2 people you killed were not northern tribesmen. The Devil King must witness the blood of the northern tribes.
Who is he? David thought. He knows about the northern tribes. Could he be the Devil King? Are you a dark sorcerer? Or are you the Devil King?
Me? The Devil King? Surely you must know he lurks in your veins, waiting to witness the blood of the northern tribes. What are you afraid of? How could you cry out at the mere sight of commoner's blood?
That happened in a dream, David thought. Nobody else should know about it.
So this must be another dream. This is a dream, isn't it? There's only 2 men who always torment me in my dreams. The King of the North and the Devil King.
If you're not the Devil King, then you must be the King of the North.
I am not the King of the North either. You are trying to convince yourself you are inside a nightmare because you have killed 2 men. But I assure you, this is reality. Touch these corpses. Taste their blood. Face the truth. Who are you? Show yourself! Can you not tell? I am the man who longs to acquire the power of the Devil King in order to kill the King of the North and live happily ever after with Susanna. I am David. You are David? Quit screwing around! Susanna loves me, and I love her. Why do you want to make her happy? Do you really love her as you claim you do? You do not feel love for Susanna the sorceress, but I am you. I am the David who can love Susanna unconditionally. The man turned towards David. David looked at the man's face. He tried to speak, but no words would leave his mouth. That is because that man's face was the same face he always saw in the mirror. I am David. Unless the pathetic, cowardly David disappears, Elenovision is going to disband. If you're David, then who am I? You are David, and I am David. The only difference is that I will never stop loving Susanna, while your love for her is dying down. The other David approached him, holding a knife. David was terrified by his other self. He tried to run away, but his legs would not move. The other David raised the knife. Paralyzed by fear, David closed his eyes and screamed. Then, he heard Susanna's voice, coming from far away.
Susanna, help me! David, wake up!
David felt his body being shaken and opened his eyes. It was Susanna. I'm in bed, David thought. It was another dream.
There's nothing to fear now, David. We did what we had to do to survive.
He did not understand the meaning of Susanna's words. What do you mean by what we had to do?
We killed the 2 detectives. We had no other choice if we wanted to awaken the power of the Devil King.
So it wasn't a nightmare. But, Susanna, those 2 were not Northern tribesmen.
What? They weren't? It's going to be alright. Greg and the others captured their client, Jeffs. He's in the basement. He is definitely a Northern tribesman. Come on, let's go see him.
Don't tell me that. You want me to kill him as well? I don't want to kill anyone else. Susanna, let's run away together. We could go to Japan. Surely the King of the North can't reach us there.
No. He'd never stop hunting us. We need to kill him. If we miss this chance, our children would never be safe.
I saw it in my dream. The Devil King will kill me and reincarnate as another David. How could he try to revive him knowing that I'll be gone?
You saw it in a dream? My mother never said anything about that. When the blood of the Devil King is revived, you'll obtain his power. That's it. Now come.
No, I won't! I don't want to be a murderer! Besides, if I see the blood of the Northern tribesmen, I'll become the Devil King! I'll stop being me!
You're coming with me, David. They're all waiting for you.
Susanna pulled David out of the room. The corridor was bright, as if the night had passed.
Why do you want me to kill people, Susanna? You never loved me, did you? You only ever wanted the power of the Devil King. I'm not coming with you!
David shook Susanna off and fled in the direction opposite to the basement. He heard Susanna calling out to him, but she did not seem to be following him. David ran down the hallway. He kept running, trying to reach the wall he could see ahead. However, he was not getting any closer to it, as if he were simply stomping his feet on the spot. Oh shit, he's in Gwendolyn's boss room! He was getting tired. He stopped running and looked back. Nobody was chasing him. He made his way back and stopped, dumbfounded. The wall he had been trying so hard to reach was right in front of him. There was a door in it. David pushed the door without hesitation. With a creaking noise, it opened. When he saw the room, he was left speechless. It was the same room he had been sleeping in. Every item, every piece of furniture was at the same place. Even his own luggage was there. As if sleepwalking, he made his way inside. When I left the room, Susanna didn't chase me, David thought. Maybe I'm under the effects of a hypnotic spell. I ran so much, but I'm back where I started. I'm only going in circles. David felt a presence and turned towards the entrance. It was dark outside the room, with only candles breaking the darkness. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning lit up the corridor, a sound so loud that it felt like the heavens themselves had split. Then, there was a figure in front of the entrance. David, I have come for you. Come with me to the basement and witness the blood of that man. As the lightnings kept flashing, David was able to see the face of the man. It was the other David, the one he met in the basement. If you're the real David, why don't you go to the basement? Why do I have to go? Because there should not be two Davids. Only by witnessing the blood of the northern tribes will we become one. If you will not do so, then you must vanish. His other self approached him, brandishing a knife. David tried to dodge the knife, but its aim was true. It pierced his heart. David's scream echoed throughout the room. Then, he opened his eyes. It was another nightmare, David thought. Is this reality? Or am I still dreaming? He was losing his mind thinking about it. He decided to lie on the bed and close his eyes, trying to calm down. You are trying to kill one of my tribesmen. My curse may have failed, but now that I am here, I shall run my sword through your heart. The King of the North appeared in his room. He approached David, brandishing his sword. David stood up, looking for a chance to flee. When the King of the North had lowered his guard, he made his move. But then, he heard King Hroth's voice inside his head.
You cannot defy fate, David. If you wish to defeat the King of the North, you must witness the blood of the northern tribes. Without the powers of the Devil King, the King of the North will kill you. The one who stands before you is but a shadow. Focus your eyes on the sword and he will not be able to kill you. Go to the basement. Susanna is waiting for you. Hurry! The King of the North aimed his sword at David's chest. At the last moment, he was able to dodge the strike. Then he tackled his assailant. He had expected some kind of impact, but the King of the North must have been an illusion. He passed through him, tumbling into the corridor. In a frenzy, he hurried down the stairs. Fearing that a sword could pierce his back at any moment, he kept running down the corridor. At the end, he turned right and reached the door at the end, where he stopped. It's the door that leads to the basement, David thought. Did the Devil King lead me here? No, I can't open it. When he turned around, intent on going back, he saw a knife right before his eyes. You have come this far. Why turn back? You must go to the basement, David. Do it, or I will kill you. David shook off the knife, pushing his other self away, and ran away. He could think of nothing else. He had to run. As he approached the dining room, he saw the King of the North, sword in hand, coming down the stairs. And so David ran. He ran. He kept running. He eventually reached the door that led to the courtyard. He opened the door and jumped outside, without even stopping to look. It was dark outside the castle, stars dotting the sky. David looked around, and his heart almost gave out from the shock. This isn't the garden, he thought. It's the same town from my nightmares. Either I'm dreaming, or this is an illusion created by magic. On the verge of a mental breakdown, David screamed at the empty town. As if to respond to his cry, a terrifying, murderous intent swept over him. David was shivering, as if he had been bathed in cold water. He could not stop there. He had to keep running through the town before the source of that bloodlust reached him. He knew the way, as he had been in this town multiple times in his nightmares. If I go this way, the path turns to the left, and then it should go downhill. Then if I turn right and take the next left downhill, I should get to a road where you can see the castle. If it's like my nightmares, I should be able to reach the castle. The castle. Come to think of it, it was very similar to Susanna's castle. Forgetting about the threat hunting him, David ran through the town from his memories. Then, across the wilderness, he could see the castle in the distance. Was the castle from my nightmares Susanna's castle? Was I fated to come here? The moment he stepped into the wilderness, David felt dizzy. When he opened his eyes, David was standing in front of Susanna's room. He had been transported from the wilderness to the castle in an instant.
He opened the door, and he found Susanna there.
I've been waiting for you, David. Come on, we have to go to the basement. Everyone's worried because you've been taking so long. Hurry, David. You must witness the blood of that man before the Star of Darkness leaves the planet.
Susanna grasped his hand tightly. Enough of this! I don't want to kill anyone! All of a sudden, the other David appeared at his side. Susanna, there is no choice. We must kill the other David. There cannot be two Davids. The other David approached him, brandishing a knife. Let go of me, Susanna! I must run! If I don't run, he's going to kill me! David tried to pry Susanna's fingers open, but they were as stiff as iron and would not budge. The other David raised the knife. Before he could feel any pain, everything went dark. Did he faint before the knife struck him? He was falling into an abyss of pure darkness. David was lying in a hospital bed. Susanna was at his side.
Tell me, Doctor. Will he get any better?
Susanna was talking to a doctor from the mental hospital David had been recovering in. She had been taking care of him all this time.
You said he's been dreaming for a month now. What's going to happen to him?
As you can see from this EEG, his brain activity is abnormal. See how many ripples there are? His brainwaves are in complete disarray. This is the kind of pattern caused by fear. Nightmare, perhaps. But normally the shock would wake you up instantly. It's as if he's secluded himself from the dream world in order to escape from reality.
Sometimes celebrities can't cope with their popularity. Maybe he just wants to be alone.
Though these violent brainwaves are not desirable, the silver lining is that even in the worst case scenario, he won't fall into a vegetative state.
Doctor, is he able to hear me while he sleeps?
While his EEG is calm, he is sound asleep and he won't be able to hear you. He should be able to hear you when his brainwaves are spiking. I must inform you, however, that it will only be a fleeting memory to him. I understand how you feel, Miss Susanna, but please take care of yourself as well. This kind of condition requires a lot of time and patience. With that, the doctor left. Alone with David, Susanna moved closer to his ear and spoke to him, caressing her belly.
David, our baby's growing well. Please, wake up soon. I want the three of us to live together.
David did not react, but Susanna felt like she heard a voice. And so my bloodline shall carry over. Well done, Susanna. I shall return to the Star of Darkness and rest. I look forward to my return 300 years from now.
It's the voice of King Hroth. Once he returns to the Star of Darkness, David will wake up, I'm sure of it.
Excited for David's imminent awakening, Susanna started replying to the pile of letters the fans sent David during his stay at the hospital.